they let me out of a jail a couple times. And the first time they let me out, I led them into the woods with shackles. We dug up $2 million in gold bars. They surround me. They had a whole perimeter. They know if I was trying to escape or what, leading them on some Easter egg hunt. But all in all, I ended up giving them close to $10 million in gold bars that I dug up in the woods with them with shackles on in an orange jumpsuit.
Welcome back to the Locked In with Ian Bick podcast. On today's episode, we have Eric Canori, the author of Pressure, a fast-paced, high-stakes, and heartfelt memoir to tell his incredible story of building a multi-million-dollar weed empire in college and becoming the largest high-end wholesaler on the East Coast. In this episode, we dive in to the actions that led him to build this business and how he was eventually caught and sent to prison. We now have new merch in stock. Go to ianbick.com to check out our selection of hoodies, t-shirts, beanies, just in time for the holiday season. Use code LOCKEDIN at checkout to receive 10% off your order. That's code LOCKEDIN. Thank you guys all so much to our viewers and our listeners that not only tune in week after week, but also tell their friends about the podcast and help get the word out there. It means the world that I wouldn't be here without you guys. Remember, you can help support our show by hitting the subscribe button on YouTube or giving us a follow and review on whichever site you listen to this podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Eric Canori. Eric, welcome to the Locked In, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to come out, be here with us today.
Ian, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I always never know what to expect when I get on these. So, because when I first started, people used to ask me like, well, "Do you want the questions in advance?" A couple people did, and I said no, obviously, but I gave them a better answer than that. But for me, I like raw stuff, so I don't have no clue what we're getting into here except locked in. I've been there, I've been locked up, and there's pros and cons to that. When you're trapped in a position, well. You start the show.
No, continue what you want to say. It sounded interesting.
Nah, being trapped. I've been trapped so many times in my life, and the greatest lessons I learned were being trapped, whether it was in my childhood, being trapped in my bedroom for months on end while I was grounded, or for being trapped in a prison cell, sitting there alone, looking at barren walls, dreaming, wondering where you fucked up and how you can do better. I guess you could call that locked in, bro.
And that's why you're on the show today.
That's right.
And childhood is where we always start our show. So let's start there. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was like that early childhood experience like for you?
I grew up in a little town called Queensbury, New York. It's in upstate New York near between Saratoga Springs and Lake George, New York. It's a quiet little town in the foothills of the Adirondacks. What that was like was lonely and depressing. That's the truth, and I didn't even realize that till I grew up, and because I covered a lot of that pain with drugs. I started smoking weed when I was 16, maybe 15, and drugs allowed me to fit in with others and laugh about a bunch of shit, so I wouldn't have to face the reality and have a real conversation about who I was and where I was from.
Now, what was the reality at that time? What were your parents doing for work? What were your siblings like, if you had any?
Quick backstory. My parents divorced when I was 2. My mom had me really young. She was maybe 22 years old. Divorced my father when I was 2, and then moved me about 4 hours away from him when I was 6. So I don't really have a relationship with my biological father. He's a good guy, but I don't even really know him, because my mom drove a wedge between us, which was unfortunate. And then she remarried. I had a stepfather that really pounded on me. You know what I'm saying, man? It was just a tough, talk back. Anything that you do, when talking back isn't, my mom and my stepfather drank a lot heavily every weekend, rage and party till sunrise, right? So very happy on Friday and Saturday, yet Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, very irritable. So when you're drinking or any type of drugs you are, it's a roller coaster lifestyle, big sways in emotions, and I had to deal with that as a child. So I had to tiptoe on eggshells at a very young age so I wouldn't slip up or talk back or do anything that could interrupt their mood and then get a backhand to the face or kneel in the corner. Dude, just embarrassing. I'm not going to even get into all the details. It's in my book, but it was very lonely. And at a point, by the time 15, 16, I had a lot of times thought about ending it, ending life, just because I was embarrassed because I didn't want to tell people in school what I went through, and I couldn't have a real conversation with many kids, and I couldn't afford what a lot of the other kids had. I couldn't afford the new sneakers or the nice backpack. Girls didn't notice me. I felt inadequate. I felt like a loser, and I didn't know what the point of life was because I didn't know that if it would ever get any better because I was just a kid, and I had to make life better for me, and that's when there was one way to make life better, and that was to have money. Because if I had money, I wouldn't have to come home to sleep in a position where I was going to get hurt. And I wouldn't have to come home to eat. Food and shelter were the top 2 priorities in my young adulthood. And I figured out how to afford food and shelter through eventually selling cannabis. I started selling in high school and then right through college, and then graduated college with a business management degree and started one of the largest high-end cannabis distribution networks on the East Coast of the United States. I sold well over $300 million worth of grass by age 29. And I did it all without a gun. Yeah, I did it without a gun. And what's very unique is the government never knew my name or that I existed. I was a ghost.
Wow. Do you think your mom knew what you were suffering with internally at that young age?
No. She was focused on herself. She was too young. She had me when she was 22, and she liked to smoke cigarettes and drink booze and laugh and dance with her friends. All she had on her mind is raise a kid and have him go to college, get a good education. That was the only thing. And so she made me sit in my room for days, hours, weeks, months on end and just look at textbooks while I would hear her yelling downstairs, and I just would stare at the textbooks and the words would just go blurry to me. It was, I do think in her heart, she wanted the best for me. I couldn't imagine any mother. I'm sure there's millions of mothers that all want the best for their children, but they're so distracted by other things in their lives, whether it's to pay the mortgage, whether it's to fit in with their own friends or their own relationships with their spouses, that they just don't have enough hours in the day to give the attention to everything that their heart desires.
Yeah. Now, had you have come from money, do you think you ever would have gotten into the cannabis business?
Oh, man, had I come, that's a tough call because I've seen kids that come from money that end up ending their lives. They're just depressed. The happiest people I've met in my life are people that have some problems, because problems are good and overcoming problems are exciting. It's a victory. So having a certain amount of problems in your life on a daily basis is a good thing to have. Some kids that grow up with everything and have tons of money, they have no problems, and they're like, what's the point of life? It just gets boring after a while, right? So you want to have some problems. Mine were just very extreme, in my opinion, right? Like looking for a safe place to sleep and eat while shivering outside behind a bush and drinking out of your neighbor's garden hose because you don't want to go home. That's a feeling of being trapped and out of options.
Now, a typical kid that has typical thinking is just going to say, let me go get a job at like a fast food restaurant, or like I had a lot of friends that wanted some money and they wouldn't go to the level of starting a drug empire. What was it for you that made it want to take it to the next level, not just work like a regular job?
I watched the TV show Miami Vice in the late 90s in my mom's bedroom. And I don't know if many people know that Don Johnson was one of the star characters of that TV show. And I used to watch him with crisp white linen suits down in Miami, always with beautiful women around him, just getting shit done, driving fast cars. And it just looked like a glorious life to me. And when I saw that and I got a taste of, selling a few eighths and half ounces in high school, I remember having an extra like $5, $10 or $20 in my pocket, and that was a sense of freedom. The most baller moment in my entire life, and I've done a lot of baller shit, right? Just blowing money in every which way, millions. But the most baller moment of all my days was when I could go into the Taco Bell drive-thru at age 16 and order 3 chicken chalupas, and I think they were $1.39 a piece, and I even got like a Mountain Dew. The whole bill was like let's say $5.45 or $6. And I sat on the curb, high as a giraffe's ass, and I ate that chalupa and that soda, and I just felt at peace, and I felt free because I could afford to do that. Because as a kid, I'd always ask my mom if we could get that on the menu, and she didn't have a coupon. She only had a coupon for the 89-cent tacos. They weren't the chalupas. They were the real basic. So me being able to level up in that manner, I was just like, I want more of this. And that's when I knew making $20-30 isn't enough. I want more.
It lit a fire in you.
Yeah.
It's crazy that like the fast food ignited that. Like we all have something that ignites us as an entrepreneur, and that was what it was for you, that feeling. Yeah,
it was a feeling of being able to take care of myself and not having to rely on somebody to feed me. I was self-sustainable. Well, not totally. I couldn't afford a place to sleep just yet, but I could definitely afford to not be in home on time and buy my own food, which is a safety.
So how does it go from like a little, typical weed dealer, drug dealer in high school to an elaborate business? Where does it evolve?
Well, the biggest thing that I did is I always put myself last. My customers came before me. My employees came before me. My suppliers came before me. And it was always me last. I always just had a mattress, didn't have much in all the different rentals I had. I didn't have much. The houses echoed when I was on the phone. So if you call me, you'd be like, where are you? And people would say they didn't know, because I was always at a lot of different stash houses. But I put everybody ahead of me, and I was last. And when you do that, when you under-promise and over-deliver and exceed people's expectations, they come back because they want to work with you. And that was me. There was no messing around. I didn't waste people's time. I show up to a deal, and all the deals are win-win. So the key is, keep my margins low, make sure they win so they want to come back. And then before you know it, I was scaled up to where I had accounts in every single state of the East Coast. I had drivers, warehouses, 14 phones at any given time, PGP encrypted BlackBerries, and I ran it like a Fortune 500 company, man. I was an air traffic controller, and I didn't talk to anybody. That's another thing. I didn't tell anybody. Everything was a need-to-know basis. So if I do a deal with you, all you know is that. You don't know that I have 10 other deals going on that day or that week, whatever the situation is. Real quiet, real humble. Didn't bling out. It wasn't about rims, cars. I like nice hotels, attractive, intelligent women, and good food.
Where do you learn to do this? Like, where does this come from?
Oh, man, I started young. I did a little paper route, until I got grounded. My mom took that away. I did a little shoveling driveways, mowing lawns, washing my grandmother's car. I hustled candy in school, in middle school, or I'd take my lunch money. I'd get 80 cents for lunch. I'd take that, go to the gas station, buy 8 packs of Pez, flip those, double my money. And I could still afford to buy lunch, and then I'd have leftover change to do whatever I wanted with. So I really started learning how to get my money to work for me at a very young age rather than me work for the money.
I sold candy in high school too. I would get a $20 allowance and then get dropped off at the CVS, and I would go energy drinks, gum, candy bar, and turn it in like $60 on a Friday at school.
Yeah, that's people like candy, right? I remember, fuck.
It brings back the memories, and I had the lemonade stands. Do you think entrepreneurs are born, or are they made? Are they created? Or are you just naturally born with that?
I don't know. I don't think they're born like that. I think they're in an environment in their youth that sculpts them to survive and to do whatever is necessary to survive. I apologize. Every person that you look at today when you walk out that door, you have to see the little child in them, because 90% of who you are, who I am, 90% of who we are was programmed between ages 1 and 7. So you have to look at where you were and what environment you were during those years. And those years could sculpt you into being an entrepreneur. If you see your parents arguing about money, not having enough money to buy a pack of gum when you're in the checkout line with your mom, everything seems too expensive, that's going to resonate and stick in your brain at a very young age. And you're naturally, instinctually going to think about, how can I get what the other kids have?
That makes sense. I never really looked at it that way either. I think it was just like watching my dad own a catering company and seeing what he did, and then being able to be free and do like start a lemonade stand and stuff, then that once you get that taste, and like I remember I'd save up to working to get like the new Xbox or the new Wii or anything like that, and having those goals, that just made my ambition go larger.
Yeah. Did your dad have the catering business when you were really young, like 1 to 7?
Yeah, he started it. He was doing it while he was still a school teacher in New York City, and then he retired from teaching to do catering full time. So I picked that up watching him work and stuff, and that's where it came from.
Exactly. So that rubbed off on you. You learned how to turn money from your father probably, and whoever else. I mean, I don't know your entire situation, but yeah.
Do you ever wish that you used those skills you developed early on for something different at that time period?
There's a little part of me is like, man, if I just had that nice, peaceful, loving environment. I always wanted to be an architect. I like creating things from nothing. And also I wouldn't have to watch my back every day, because when you're in the underworld, not only are you growing, looking ahead and growing an organization and scaling, but you're also constantly looking behind, because you have to cover your tracks all times, right? Like wondering who could have been wearing a wire. How can I prevent myself from, cleaning out your trash, knowing that your trash could be being searched through for evidence. It's like a nonstop looking behind you, equally as much as looking ahead.
What would you categorize yourself? Like, what would you have called yourself at the peak of this?
Called myself a real hustler.
Is it like a kingpin though, or not really? Or
I mean, I was a number 9 in the business. Number 10 is when you take out the witnesses.
Okay, so what does number 9 mean?
Number 9 means you go big, you make a lot of money, but you won't kill to maintain your territory. You won't kill to maintain your territory, and you're not going to carry a gun. Like some people have to carry guns, which I get. I understand. That's. And also number 10 is, I was in cannabis. The margins are extremely small. You move into narcotics and coke, I mean, I could have made 100 million, 200, like big money with the same principles. I just did never touch that because the sentencing guidelines are much more strict. Or I shouldn't say the guidelines are, but the judge, in my opinion, looks at cocaine as a more dangerous drug than cannabis. And keep in mind, we're going way back in the day here. This is the late 90s, early 2000s. I got arrested in 2009. So had I got arrested now with cannabis, it might not have been as strict, but this was before it was legal in any state. But why was I at 9? I was at 9 because number 10 is like cartel stuff. That's number 10. That's when you'll do anything to grow your business.
So did you know that it was going to end with you getting arrested then? If you were thinking about sentencing and a judge and how they would look at you? Or was that just like a what-if scenario?
I always knew there would be an end. Oh, yeah, I was always prepared for that. I buried money over the years in the Adirondacks to pay for legal fees. And that's the reason why I never had children, because for me, it was a calculated risk where I looked at it like, you know what? I'm okay with doing a little time for weed. I've never been arrested before. If I get popped, the judge is going to look at me as a first-time offender for just cannabis. It was a calculated risk, and it was worth it for the money I was making. At least that's where my mind was at that time. Now, it wouldn't have been worth it if I had children, because I would never want to be in a position where I was boxed up and knowing that my kids were there to witness that, and also being raised by somebody else that I might not know of. So that's the only... I don't know if that answered your question, but you have some good questions, man.
Well, what, you weren't expecting that?
Nah, I just, all your questions are good. You're good at this. So
Thank you. I mean, lots of practice. This is 70 episodes in now. It's sink or swim. I don't think we would have gotten here if I was like the first episode. It was I had the questions printed out, and it was just question, you answer, I shoot back another question. It was so cringe. Yeah. And I was, Mike Rappaport.
Oh, yeah.
I did his show last week, and he was saying, I never go on someone's podcast when it's their first couple episodes, because that's when you're working out the kinks.
Yeah.
So now we're working out the kinks, and each episode you get a little bit better. How much money were you making at the peak? By week, by month, and maybe by year?
Oh, boy. By 2006, 2007, I was doing close to $60 million a year in sales.
All cash?
Oh, yeah. There's no checks in that. I had a little side hustle with gold, but yeah, I was doing a lot of business, man. At that point, you don't even count the money anymore. It's either you don't. I didn't even weigh it. You know, some people say they weigh it, but me, it was just you look at the stacks. You know, they're in $5,000 stacks, and then occasionally you'll check to make sure people are on point and check them, because sometimes people get a little sloppy and comfortable. You forget where money is, man. There's been times where I just come across $1 million somewhere, and I'm just like, oh shit, you know, just forget. You know, you never know your net worth. I didn't even know I'd check my net worth like once a year, once every 10 months. I'd be like, oh, what am I worth now? You know, and just try to calculate what's out on the street, what I have in inventory, what do I have buried, what do I have invested in other places. And at that age, in my 20s, I became a millionaire by age 21, 22. But you would never know it. If you met me somewhere, you wouldn't know it. The money I spent was never in my hometown. It was always out of town, and I lived comfortably. But most of my money I just put back out on the street to work for me, and that's how I was able to scale up. It wasn't like I'd make money and then go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Granted, I did waste millions in stupid things like filming women. I thought I had this like docuseries I blew a couple million on. I just a lot of little immature things because I was never noticed in high school, and I think there was this little part of me in my gut that wanted to be always loved and accepted. And I think the way I attracted love and acceptance at that age with my mentality was to be noticed or for something that I did. Maybe I could make this TV show and be a success, and everybody say, "Wow, Eric did it." You know, that would feel good because I never had a compliment. I wasn't really allowed to play sports much in high school. So there was no good job, Eric, ever in my life. At that age, at least. I mean, now I hear it occasionally, I guess.
Did you have a system to clean that money at all, or was everything just cash all the time?
Everything was cash. I had a legal business, but I didn't commingle my funds. There did get a point where, like I said, I had a gold hustle. I ended up paying the feds close to $10 million in gold bars that I dug up in the woods with shackles on. We'll get to that, but that was kind of my way of making it so I wouldn't have to work undercover for them. But I didn't really. No, there was no. I didn't. A lot of people, like at my level, they'll have legal businesses where they run the cash through, whether it's a restaurant, a pizza shop, real estate. There's plenty of ways to launder and clean money, but I didn't have that going on. My business was just moving so fast that I was just burying shit, and literally in the earth, 3 feet down.
And did you have like a partner, or is this all you with just employees underneath you?
It was just solely me. I had a lot of people that. Maybe you can consider them partners. I don't know. I had good long-time customers. I had some customers that were there with me for a decade plus that always paid on time, never did me wrong. I've had people go down under me, get arrested. I had a lot of different things. But no, I was the sole owner, boss, you could say.
And how did you protect yourself from the people underneath you, that they couldn't just flip on you right away? Because you had a long run in this. It's not like you just started this up, one guy gets caught, and then 2 months later, you're in jail.
Gut instincts, and I've said this before, like, when I meet you and do a deal with you, I can pretty much tell if you have a wire on. Not always. I couldn't tell now because I'm not aware. I don't look for that. But back then, I could tell. And remember, it's not what you think or what's in your heart. It's your gut, because your gut said signals to your heart, and then your heart sends signals to your brain. So for me, following gut instincts was really what kept me out of the crosshairs of the feds for a long time. There were several people that tried to wear wires on me in the past. A couple in college. There was a couple other that I'm not 100% sure on once I graduated college. But you get that gut feeling, and then you don't call them out on it, but you give them some false information on the wire, and it just sends them in a different direction, so you look like a nobody. And I always kind of made myself purposely appear to be a nobody, you know?
Yeah. So what would be like a tell-all sign? I know you're saying your gut, but there's got to be like, is the person sweating, the eye motion, body language?
Oh, that's part of it. I had one kid show up to me. He was just exhausted, bro. You could tell the feds had been like running him down, dude. He was just exhausted. And plus I had heard somebody else got busted near him. So I know they scooped him up and had a little talk with him and told him he can go back out on the street and do his thing. Actually, I pressed him a little, and he gave me a tip. He did actually write down. That's in the book. What happened? He gave me a tip that he was wearing a wire on me. Another tell is just how they talk. The key words you got to think about: is this conversation going to be used in the court of law? If a jury's listening to this conversation right now, can they pick incriminating things out of this conversation? So basic 101 things, like if you're doing a deal with somebody, you're not going to say the words weed, cannabis, cash, right? Like those are key words, but you can say, yeah, can you bring the package here tomorrow of 100 units? Yeah, okay, yeah, five, and then the jury hears that, yeah, well, I have a candle business. Yeah, I bought 100, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So plausible deniability can save you in certain circumstances. But the thing is, if the feds want you, they got you. Yeah. They have all the time in the world, and they have unlimited resources. So the key is, if you're gonna, I don't advise anybody go in the underworld, but if you are, the key is you can't be flashy, you can't upset them, you can't make yourself look better than them. Like they worked hard, they went to college, they have a job, they make whatever. I don't even know what these agents make. $100,000, they make $100,000, and you're out there making millions of dollars. How do you think that's gonna make them feel when they go to bed at night? Yeah, they're not gonna like that. So it's just a matter of when they get to you. So you got to be quiet, and you got to focus. And if you're, kids that pick up drug dealing, I feel bad because a lot of kids, they don't want to be drug dealers. They just have to do it because their parents aren't there to provide for them the basic needs.
Where was your mom at the peak of this? Did you guys have a relationship?
At the peak of this, yeah, I'd come home for Thanksgiving, give her a hug, Christmas, bring her a nice TV, gifts and things. That was my form of showing her, Mom, that I did it, buy her things.
Did she know what you were doing?
No. She might speculate. I don't know. She used to watch Miami Vice when she was younger. It doesn't, I would think that she would have an idea, but supposedly, no. She was just kind of blown away when she read the headlines when I got initially arrested.
When she found out about it.
Yeah.
Was there ever any dangerous situations or close calls?
As far as in what with what? Cops, guns?
Anything, yeah. With clients, with the police during your career?
Oh my God, there's so many close calls. Well, a couple kids wore the wires on me. The feds were watching me in college before I graduated. I only had 6 months left to graduate, and they sent 2 different kids to my house with wires on, trying to get a case on me before I left. And I was just so close to graduating. I'd already done 3.5 years. I had another 6 months left. I was going to be out of there. And I was a little nervous, but I played him pretty well. I sent him on a false trail, gave him some misinformation, and I was able to escape out of town with a load, a small load. I was small back in college, but a smaller load, and they didn't follow me around because they weren't going to follow around a kid. They only thought I was worth about $60,000 in college, so it was kind of just like a loose end that they could get to me, but they're not going to waste a lot of resources on a little kid like that. I was able to get away from that and moved to another town where I started a legitimate business as a cover-up. Other close calls, there'd been robberies, there'd been a shootout on the reservation before, but close call where I'm sitting in a chair and somebody has a gun to my head and says, give me everything you have? No.
Never?
No.
So you got pretty lucky for the most part.
Well, I wouldn't call it luck. I'd call it skill. I was very good at what I did because I started at I wasn't introduced. Like a lot of people come to this game, they'll be a driver, and then they'll find somebody else can take it. I started with a dime bag. I started with an eighth. I started with when you look at how much I sold, $300 million, but think about what I bought. I did well over $500 million worth of business in my 20s. That was done trial and error and just going slowly and gradually and keeping my word. So I just learned gradually how to do this stuff. And I worked a lot, and my girlfriends would complain about that. Why don't I ever see you? So there's pros and cons. I had a lot of money, but I didn't have a lot of free time, and I was actually exhausted. The money really robbed me. Originally, the money gave me freedom, but then it got to a point where the money robbed me of my freedom, specifically my free time. Because I don't know if it was greed or maybe it was just fear of never going back to a place where I didn't have anything. I just kept working, dog. Just kept working like a dog till I just never stopped for anything. Even if I, got sick or got a cold. Luckily, I don't really get sick anymore in years because I've learned how to live a healthy lifestyle. But, man, the money got to me at the cellular level. And I'm talking about just weakness, illness, tired, stressed. It wasn't worth it anymore. And that's when I started making mistakes, and I eventually had a downfall. Like, I was just in the wrong business. Like, I'm not passionate about weed. I don't even smoke. I got all the drugs out of my system I did in, college and a little after college, but then I really didn't do much drugs. Drugs fucked up my perception, weakened me. It's fun to laugh with buddies about a bunch of bullshit, but, but when you go home alone and you're sitting there weak and tired and exhausted and blurry, the high isn't worth the low to me.
Yeah, it's nice in the moment, but then when it clears up a little bit, then you're like, I don't want to do this. Were you taking college seriously, making all this money? Like, were you still going to classes, getting good grades?
Yeah, I had decent grades. I mean, I paid people to highlight all my textbooks in the class. So I'd find the kids that really knew what was up, and then they'd highlight stuff. I had one kid specifically, he's a good friend of mine still. One thing, I always made sure to show up to class no matter what. It was top priority. Even if I wasn't learning or paying attention or half asleep, I always showed up. I never missed classes. That was one thing about me, and I think teachers respected that. My grades weren't always the best, but I passed everything. But I wouldn't, just because I didn't have good grades doesn't mean I'm not smart, because, I've learned over the years there's a lot of knowledgeable people out there, but intelligence is different than knowledge. A knowledgeable person knows a lot of stuff, but they don't know how to apply it to their life to level up. An intelligent person knows how to take the knowledge and then use it to their advantage to level up. So, I wasn't an extremely knowledgeable where I'd look at the book and know everything in the book, but I was intelligent where the little bit that I did learn, I would apply that to my own life and keep growing.
You think you needed to go to college?
I think it was a good buffer from being trapped in my mom's house to the real world, because thankfully my mom helped. She paid half of college, or maybe a third. I don't remember the exact number, but she helped, and she pushed me to go to college. It helped me adapt and, live amongst other kids. I didn't have to worry about food at that time, right? Because I had the campus provided us with food. So it was a good buffer or bridge into the real world for me. So I don't think it helped as far as getting a job, because I never worked for anybody since, McDonald's in 96 or something like that. But
that was your last regular job?
Yeah, it was either that or a doc. No, actually, I worked the front booth. It was like the check-in gate at an RV park, but I sold weed out of the booth so people would drive up to the booth. So I really only kept the job because it was free real estate to run my weed business.
Yeah. What do you what advice would you give to someone that's kind of on the line in high school right now about deciding whether they want to go to college or not?
Oh God, I think personally, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, I really think those are things you should go to college for, because those are skills. You don't want to mess up with the knife under surgery. But general things, if you don't know what you want to do in life, and I hate to give this advice because I've never actually been a parent, but I would personally just say start working, because in school they really never taught me how to make money. They taught me how to get in line, stand straight, be there when the bell rings. It was kind of more like taught me how to be a slave in a way, in my opinion, but they didn't really teach me how to make money. They taught me about history, spelling, but history really never helped me make money. I wish they had taught me about how to deal with people. How come they didn't tell me? You know what they told me? Don't talk to strangers. Well, if you don't talk to strangers, how are you going to make money? If I come up to you, if I'm going to order my sandwich, I'm like, hey, what's up? What do you do? And you're like, oh, I own the dry cleaners down the street. Oh, no kidding. I need my shirts dry cleaned and whatever. We do business. So that's a tough question. I don't want to tell kids not to go to college. I feel like they're charging way too much. What are you going to rack up a couple $100,000 in debt, then get out, and then you're going to get a job, you're going to have a mortgage payment, then with the interest on your loans, that's tough to get ahead. It's tough to get ahead unless you want to make a lot of sacrifices. And the type of sacrifice is going to be no partying on the weekends, being very military and regimented about how you spend your free time. You sleep 8 hours, you work 8 hours. That gives you 8 hours left. You're going to scroll on your phone for about 4 of them. Then you got 3 left. What are you going to do with those other 3 hours in the day? If you really want to level up in life, you need to think about that. Otherwise, you're just going to be a follower. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a follower. I consider myself more of a leader, but being a leader, you could look at that and be like, that's a lot of work. You're missing life. Chill out, Eric. Why you always got to be go, go, go? Which is right, because being a follower, you kind of just hang out, tinker around, you enjoy life. What if you die tomorrow? At least you had a lot of free time, right? Hey, It's not a bad way to be. So just figure out where you want to be, because we need all types of people in this world ecosystem to thrive and evolve. So my way is not necessarily the right way, but it's just the way that works for me.
Yeah, I just think there's so much pressure from society that you have to go to college to succeed. And I think it helps people when they hear that there are other options and legal options. We're not telling anyone to go out and start a drug empire, but there's other options. Like I look back on it now, if I left high school and got a job working even at Whole Foods like I did when I got out of prison, I'd have a ton of money saved up. Just grinding and figuring out what I want to do, because there's so many growth opportunities in different businesses. And you kind of use that as a stepping stone to start your business if you are a leader in that realm.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, you could get out of high school and be a janitor, and you could be mopping those floors every day and be like, this mop sucks. And you may invent a mop that's more efficient, and you might be a billionaire. The key is just to wake up and follow where your gut. You have to. A lot of people you're gonna wake up and people are gonna tell you what to do, but that's from their perspective. And what they do may be good for them, but not necessarily for you. So really follow your gut and your heart, and don't be afraid of being judged. Because I'm a pretty confident guy, but I still am a little afraid of what people think of me, specifically on social media. Like, I don't have a social media presence, bro, because I feel awkward. I don't know how to post. I don't know what to post. What if I get one like? But in person, I'm more confident because I can feel energy. I can't feel energy through the phone screen. So I can't tailor my attitude or behavior through that. That's why I'm not a good texter, because I can't feel the vibe. But in person, I can feel the vibe, and I can make shit happen with you, whether it's any type of connection, whether it's business, romantic, platonic, whatever it may be. I can feel that vibe, but I can't do it through text. A lot of people get on my ass because I don't text anybody.
I mean, you keep it organic,
Yeah, I try to.
It's a lot better. Social media has everyone thinking that, like, look at influencers on social media. They're giving kids and young adults a different image than what their lives could actually be like. And it's making other people not follow their passions because they think life's a certain way from what these others are posting. And a lot of the times you meet these individuals and they're nothing like that. They're just humans too.
I can't tell you. I've dated in my past, 12 years. I've dated a fair amount of women that have large followings on social media, but really, they're kind of lonely. They're kind of lonely. It's a lot of work to maintain that image. It's not real, bro. I mean, shit. If you have 5 friends, you're fucking winning. Like winning. Like let's just say, I don't know. I have different grades of friends, but even my closest that I can fit on one hand, I don't even have time to see them that much. And it's hopefully they know I love them from afar because I'm not a texter, but when I see them, we pick right back up, but it's just because I'm just in a phase in life right now where I'm competing against myself. I'm trying every day to become the best version of myself, because everybody has highs and lows in life, and I kind of went through a low reflective phase over the past, 10 years. Well, it was good. It was by choice. It was great for me. Actually, it tuned me up. But social media, bro. It's you can buy followers, you can buy that. It's just I'm just like, what's real? And I haven't bought any. But the kids, I did it for a reason. I have them because I have a bigger plan that I'm setting up a program for kids, like a university of sorts online. But I don't want to mislead them and give them a false sense of reality. Like, I'm a fucking normal dude. Fucking if I have one friend, I'm winning. Like, I'm winning. Like, if I was locked up in a prison cell and I had one person on the outside that could handle shit, which a lot of people don't, you are fucking winning. Imagine being trapped in a cell 23 hours a day. You don't even have a stamp to mail somebody in a letter. And you just hope you have a friend out there that can hold shit down for you. Take care of something if it needs to be taken care of. And not everybody can say that they have one person that they can truly, really count on.
Yeah. I mean, something I've learned, it's really not always about money. It's about the people you're with and how you spend your time and having that luxury of being able to, I guess, be free. Just that concept alone. When individuals like you and myself go to prison, it gives you a different sense of the world and appreciations for things. I was in Alaska last weekend, just seeing that space. Like it was the first time I ever went to a restaurant alone and sat down at a restaurant by myself, just eating. And I don't know, it was weird, but it was good. It was like a different kind of feeling. It makes you appreciate things more.
Being in Alaska or being alone? Or
both. I mean, the Alaska trip was great. That was like a great experience, and that stemmed from me going to prison because they had me go out there to speak. But just, I would always I think as a young adult or a young kid, make fun of the person that was sitting at a restaurant alone or by themselves and stuff. And then I was that person last week. It just gave me different clarity, if that makes sense. It just frees your mind, and it's like it gives you a lot of time for reflection.
Yeah. I eat out a lot alone, probably at least 3 times a week, because I never know where I'm going to be. Like tonight, I'm out of town, so I'll probably be I got another meeting to drive to. I'm going to stop at some restaurant. I'll find one on Google. And for me, eating alone is a time for me to reset. And I've been doing it for 25 years because I'm always, not even when I'm traveling, even in my town, I like going to places on the quiet nights. Like there's certain restaurants, certain Indian restaurants I like I'll go on a Tuesday or Wednesday when not many people are there, and it's just time for me to reset. And so I'm going off a tangent here, but that's good that you're doing that, because eating alone, I remember that in a cafeteria as a kid, there were times when I sat alone in the cafeteria and I didn't look up because I was afraid of what people would have thought of me. I just looked at my tray and just kept looking down, shoveling the food into my mouth to see how fast I could get up from that uncomfortable position. Mm-hmm. And so I know exactly what you're talking about.
And there's a lot of kids in the world that feel that way. And I think it's good for them to hear this so they could understand that you could do that in your adult life and it's okay. That's normal. And to appreciate those moments too. Because that's how we find ourselves.
Oh, yeah. If you're not spending time alone, you're not leveling up.
Absolutely. Did you have a number in your head that you wanted to accrue net worth-wise to get out of the game?
Oh, man.
Because you were intelligent, you were smart, you had everything figured out for the most part.
Yeah, it started, first I wanted to hit 10 million, then I wanted to hit 50 million, then I wanted to hit 100. Like the number just kept growing, and the reason why is because the people, I was in an environment where there was just money all around me, so I didn't even feel like I had a lot of money, because there were a lot of other millionaires around me, and when you're surrounded with a bunch of millionaires, it just seems normal. And things are, and also my cost of living is a lot, right? Like, when I first got arrested, I was like, oh, shit, do I have enough money to live the rest of my life? Because I'm all done working, I'm like, shit. I was trying to do the math, and it was, when's enough? Everybody should really think about that, because you don't want to be sitting in your casket being like, if I only had more time. Because you're not bringing all that stuff with you that you bought, and you're not bringing all that money with you. So you really, I recommend it, and I learned this in a prison cell, is finding that sweet balance between free time and working. And, a lot of us were taught to work hard and then retire, and we were programmed that way. And what are you going to do when you retire? Like, I'm not going to need that much money when I retire. I'm not going to be fucking moving. I'm going to be hanging out in my kitchen eating, and then maybe go for a walk somewhere. Like, I'm not going to be. So now, every day you should retire a little bit. Have a little fun, right? Work hard. Go for a walk. Pretend you're retired and go for a walk around the block. Pretend you're retired and buy something that might be that you didn't want to buy, but you think it'll add value to your life. I'm going on a tangent again with this one, but I really thought that I needed to make a shit ton of money and save up to retire, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I like money and I want to make money and I want to be comfortable at a later life. You have to put your acorns away for the winter, right? But be careful to not let the money rob you of your soul and your freedom.
And I think you only learned that through going through what you would later go through. Because your answer today is different than what it was at that time period when you were at your peak. Yeah.
And I would even wear the money on my wrist, literally. I had the nice watch. I have a nice watch so I could show everybody, yo, motherfucker, I can afford this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I earn this. I work. I'm valuable. I'm worth something. A watch now for me is an obligation. Like just one other, I got to put this on in the morning, and I got to remember where I put it. Like if I'm traveling around, like I live a very lean and mean. I shouldn't say mean. I live a lean lifestyle. Right now, I try to really have as least amount of obligations as possible in order to better my life. And a watch is not better in my life one bit. Phone is right on my cell phone. Yeah, granted, 50 years ago or whenever they didn't have cell phones, a watch was a very important a timepiece, right? Show up on time, show you're a good businessman to the second. So it was a necessity to have a watch. But now it's more of just a statement, in my opinion, but which is fine. I still have tons of friends that have nice fancy watches, and I like looking at them. I appreciate good craftsmanship.
Yeah. So how do you end up getting caught? How do they come on to you if you had everything so well organized?
Because I started getting sloppy towards the end because I wasn't passionate a bit about the business. And when you're not passionate about something, that's where things start crumbling and slowly eroding around you. And that's what was happening to me. I was making poor choices, taking shortcuts within my organization. One of them is I hired Missy Giovi to drive a load for me. She was one of my customers for a couple of years. Little backstory on her. She was one of the fastest female mountain bikers in the world at one time, won a few World Cups. And I hired her to drive a load. Most of my cannabis for over a decade, I was sourcing out of Canada, and we'd bring it down to the United States. But come 2008, my customers were complaining my prices were too high, so we started sourcing. They were getting, California started actually having excess cannabis around 2008, where they could really start shipping large volumes to the East Coast to get it out of their state. And my customers were complaining my prices were too high and that the market was becoming saturated and they can get it cheaper elsewhere, which was true. So I was like, I want to go out to California and see what all this action's about. So I went out there, set up a little hub, started sourcing there for a few months, but I didn't have solid transportation there yet. It was a new territory to me, so I was kind of just jimmy rigging everything. I was setting up to jet the cash there and then have a fruit truck bring the product back to the East Coast. But I just decided to use Missy Giovi as a driver, and it was a really low budget way of doing things where she would just throw the weed in a cargo trailer pulled behind a pickup truck. And she took some shortcuts on me. She misled me. I paid her $60,000 to do the drive cash. And she subbed the drive out to her massage therapist for only $3,000. Didn't tell her therapist there was weed in the truck. And she got pulled over for speeding. They put a GPS unit on the truck, which followed that truck back to one of my properties in upstate New York. And that's when the feds first set eyes on me. And things just started eroding from there. Yeah, I evaded them for a minute. I dipped out. I lost them to 100 miles an hour on the highway. But I came back to them and I allowed them to cuff me up. And they had a really weak case. I spent a shit ton of money on lawyers, over $700,000. And, oh man, it's all in the book. But that was, I hired a private investigator to investigate the DEA because they started investigating me. So I was like, I'm going to investigate them. And, yeah, Missy Giovi led them right to my doorstep, and that's where they really started investigating me and trying to figure out who I was and what I was doing and why I had $1.5 million in cash in my house. And, they wanted me to work undercover for them from day one. I wouldn't do that. Then I was bailed out, and that's when they started really watching me. And I got rearrested a second time as I was on pretrial release and wanted me to work again. This time they stuck me in the jail with no bail. And eventually, after a few months, my lawyer came to me. He's like, listen, Eric, this is actually already 2 years into the first arrest. They're like, Eric, if you just give them the rest of your money, they're gonna let you go. I still ended up doing a couple years for them, close to it. I don't know, 20-something months. But my lawyer's like, listen, he came to me in jail. He's like, listen, if you give them the rest of your money, they know you're a good kid, they'll let you go. I was like, hey, can we get it in writing? He's like, no, you can't buy your way out of jail, but this would be a form of cooperation. And I was like, okay, I could live with doing something like this rather than working for them. But how much? We negotiated, and how I negotiated that deal's all in the book. But it was, they let me out of a jail a couple times. And the first time they let me out, I led them into the woods with shackles. We dug up a couple $1 million in gold bars. They surround me. They had a whole perimeter. They didn't know if I was trying to escape or what, leading them on some Easter egg hunt. But, all in all, then they let me out again. It's a long story, but all in all, I ended up giving them close to $10 million in gold bars that I dug up in the woods with them with shackles on in an orange jumpsuit.
That's insane.
Yeah, they got a couple million in cash out of me. They got close to 12 million out of me in total. And that was my form of cooperation. And it was kind of like, hey, judge, I'm sorry for what I did. Here's all the money from my crime, and I'm never going to do it again. And it was just weed. I didn't say that exactly to the judge, but that was my mentality, and that was my thinking and the advice I was getting from my lawyers at the time. And that's what I did. And I learned a lot through this whole deal. I learned how the government works. I learned about how I work. I learned about my pain. I learned about other people's pain. I learned about everybody that you look at is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. So I really learned how to have compassion for others. A lot of times I thought I was the only person that had a troubled childhood or hard times. And everybody's really dealing with something. It could be an illness, disease, death of family, so many different things out there. So getting arrested slowed me down and allowed to be more relatable and a nicer person in many ways.
It humbled you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So you technically really did buy your way out of prison, hypothetically.
Hypothetically, no. You can't buy your way out of prison. No.
That's insane, though. Do you think it was worth it? Like, looking back on it, how much time would you have gotten if you didn't give them that money?
If I had to guess, there's no telling, maybe 10 years.
10 years? Would you have done 10 years in prison for that $10 million?
No. I'll make it back. I'll make it back legally. I got some plans. Even if I don't really, my life, I like money, but I'm way happier now living with less income than I was then, because when you're a boss and if your organization isn't structured properly with good lieutenants around you, you don't have time to breathe. Think about how many rich people that don't have time to breathe and are sick and literally tired, just tired all the time. Every morning have to have a coffee to get through the day. I've never had coffee. Thankfully, I live with the sun, rise with it and set with it. But, if I straight up came out of college and I had to be somewhere every single morning when somebody told me to, I probably would have started drinking coffee. I was fortunate enough where I was able to make my own schedule. But think about how many people right now can't make their own schedule. Even the people that own their companies making millions of dollars, that business owns them. They do not own the business, because if they leave, if you do not have good lieutenants and you leave your organization, you want to go on vacation with your wife for a couple of weeks down in the Caribbean, you could think the whole company could collapse. Just a few mistakes, people not knowing what they're doing. So for me, losing that business and losing that money was a blessing, because it taught me that I was going in the wrong direction. So the next time I set up a company that can scale, I'm going to make sure I have good lieutenants around me, because I want free time. I want time to breathe. So do I regret giving them all the money? No, I wouldn't want to have done 10 years in a cell. Now, I wouldn't have mind the alone time. It's the food. The food. The prison food is not nutrient-dense food. Like, I eat from farms, not factories. And a lot of the food, even that we eat out here, is produced in factories, right? Like, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but Yeah, dude, it's the food, man. I remember eating a hamburger, just like tough things like in the meat, like I don't know if it was a bone, a nail.
That's not even real meat, whatever they give you.
What, dude, come on.
The sloppy joes.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. They really should fix that, because if you really want to reform inmates and make them better so they don't go out on the street and do this shit, like, the system is not, in my opinion, set up for reform. I was fortunate enough where, the deal I made with the feds, I was allowed to keep my legitimate assets, so I had something to come back to. But if you don't have something to come back to, and you're malnourished in there, and you're doing a 10-year bid, and you come out, like, what do you got left for life? It's like, you're gonna do something again wrong, because you only have a few years left, maybe, of life. It's like, yeah, I could talk about this all day. Bottom line is, they should fix the nutrition program in prisons.
What was the first conversation with your mother like after she found out that you got arrested?
Oh, we didn't even talk. She's just like, I don't know what to say right now. I'm embarrassed.
How'd that make you feel?
It didn't even, her feelings were not my priority, because I was being literally followed by the feds 24/7 when I first got arrested. They had cars sitting down the road, like they knew everything. They knew what I ate for breakfast, what type of laundry. They probably knew what I sound like in bed. Like, they knew everything, bro. So worrying about her feelings was not my worry. Was, how do I have a top-notch legal team? How do I figure out, how do I close up my organization properly? There was just so many moving parts that I was in a military mindset at that time.
But do you think people in those positions have to be selfish because they need to focus on themselves to get out of those situations?
Yeah. Well, anytime when you have, I was at war. So in your tribe, whatever, if somebody in your tribe is at war battling, whether it's cancer, the government, anything, you need to be there for them. They don't need to be there for you. So my mom needed to be there for me then. And they did a pretty good job. They did a pretty good job, I guess, you could say. I mean, I don't want to get into I don't want to get into all my family stuff right here. I put the most that I wanted to share about my family is in the book, but I'm not going to get into all that. But, oh man, you know what? Your mother's supposed to be really the closest person to you, because remember, you were connected by an umbilical cord at one time. I don't have, unfortunately, a relationship, anymore. And I don't want to get into that. It's a hard thing I've had to face in my little ayahuasca ceremonies that I do. It's like one thing that always comes to me. It's like, family is everything and most important. And I got burned in many more ways than one. And it hurts. It still hurts to this day. And the reason I don't party and do drugs and stuff like that is because if I were to do that, it would probably collapse me and knock me out, because there's that little pain there, man. It's like, I still deal with it. But the only way I get through it is I keep moving, right? I exercise, I eat right. I try to hang around with good people. I try to work on things that I'm passionate about. I try to rise above the pain. But it's there still. But hey, fuck, everybody's got a little pain, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes us human. It makes us relatable to each other and keeps us going too, if you use it as like a motivator.
Yeah.
How much time did you end up doing overall? And when did you get out of jail or prison, wherever they sent you?
How much time did I do? I did close to 20 months. What was the other question?
What year did you get out?
I got out in... 2014, I believe. Yep.
And that's when everything was done. The case was over.
I still had supervised release for 5 years, I believe, which was, you just have to tell them where you're going, how much money you make, how much money you spend, if you've done anything wrong. But, they were all respectable. I respected them. They respected me. I followed all the rules, followed the law, and I kind of just focused on writing my book, other small little business endeavors I had at the time. I did those things, and it kept me out of trouble. And I had a couple good girlfriends at the time. But, man, I've had what with my life is I've had a wide variety of experiences. It's not like I've done more than anybody else. It's been very diverse. Diverse lifestyle I've lived.
Do you feel lucky about the whole situation? Because there's others that were in your shoes that got way more time and didn't have the luxury of making a deal like you did?
No, I didn't get lucky, bro. Now, and I know some people would laugh, right? First-time offender for weed, there's not really anybody you're going to see doing serious time. For a first-time offender for cannabis, I paid him $12 million, bro, voluntarily. It wasn't like they seized it or caught me with it. Like, I paid them a lot of freaking money to show the judge I'm done. Here's the proceeds of my crime. The judge could have been like, okay, there's supervised release. Get on with your life. Don't do it again or you're going to be doing some serious time. Instead, he gave me a sentence and he made me go do time. And it's like, in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So maybe he does know what he's doing. But, I mean, dude, that's a lot of freaking money I gave him, right? I mean, you don't really hear that happening. Actually, and it was the most money they got in New York State. That year, there was only like $22 million recovered in forfeitures that whole year in the whole state. That includes Manhattan, New York, the city. Like, that's a lot of freaking money I gave them.
Do you know
Don't quote me on that number. Don't quote me on that number. Do the research, but that's what I recall. Yeah, where'd that money go?
Yeah, where does that money go?
They didn't need the money. They can print more.
Yeah. It's crazy, though, the whole seizure concept, that when they take money and then wherever it goes.
Yeah, I don't. All I heard was they auctioned the gold off, and what they did with the proceeds of that, I have no clue.
Hopefully it went to a good cause.
I heard some of it that they had sent, just articles I had read where they give it to division, because they had 32 different law enforcement agencies investigating me.
32. Do we have 32 agencies?
Dude, no, it was that's a combination of state, federal, and local, all the different branches, different territories. Don't quote me on 32 either. It could have been 31. I know it was above 30. Like, that was what I had read in some paperwork somewhere. So, and the money I know got spread amongst a few of the agencies, specifically in my local town. There was like a county and a state and a federal agency, but I don't know all the numbers exactly.
What was the actual charge that you got charged with and pled guilty to?
I only had a 1-count indictment. That was conspiracy to distribute 100 kilos of cannabis. Which I'm lucky, right? That's not bad. 1-count indictment, I can live with that. Hopefully it'll get, what is the term I'm looking for?
Pardoned? Or
not pardoned, but dissolved. I can't even blank. But
so you are eligible for that at some point?
I don't know, because I was a distributor, so like a manager or whatever, KINGPIN, whatever you want to call it. But
you got the enhancement?
Jeez, I don't know what they call it, man. I wish expunged. That's the word, expunged. It'd be nice if my record was expunged, because cannabis is legal in so many states right now. It's like, come on, it's just a plant. But I broke the law. I took shortcuts. I cheated. So there it is. I have a 1-count indictment on my record. Being a felon, that's the problem. I feel bad for so many felons is you're really isolated from a lot of other opportunities. It's not just the prison time. It's like, okay, you go to lease a place. Every day, always on these applications, have you ever been arrested? There's certain things that you're prohibited from doing, like can't own a firearm. So let's just say we had some pandemic again, and somebody comes to my house and goes, give me all your food, and they put a gun at my head. Give me all your food and money. I want to be able to pull a gun out and say no, but I can't. So I have to be able to disarm them with my hands now, which, I don't know, that we could talk all day about that. I don't like talking too much about crime. The thing is, I'm happy I came on this podcast, but like I was telling you briefly when I walked in is I try not to talk about crime too much, because it's the old version of me. And, the law of attraction really works. When you think about things or talk about things, it's almost like it somehow gets embedded in your brain. But maybe I'm wrong with that. But this is the Locked In podcast, so ask me whatever the fuck you want, dude.
No, I think because I've felt the same way, but I think I've been able to utilize my story and the crimes that happened in the prison sentence as a tool. And I think if you're able to figure out a way to use it as a tool, that separates it from the past to the person you want to become. because in that process and in that journey, you're creating something new from that bad experience. Because we wouldn't be sitting here now if I never figured out a way to use that as a tool. So I think that, yeah.
That's you actually you're right. And maybe I'm doing that too in a way. Maybe I am and will do that. You're right.
I think writing the book is about, that's always going to be there.
Yep, you're right.
When you do podcasts, that's always there, getting that out. Yeah. But it's about what people take away from it. Like you'll see content creators in our genre or in the prison genre that it's very focused on themselves with what like stabbings or this and that. And what I realized that my life changed for me when I made it more about others, bringing others to share their story. And I use my story to propel the show and to build a platform, but hearing other stories and what they did to overcome, that inspires so many people. I mean, so many people will be inspired by your story, that there's a life outside of what you were able to build and, facing your childhood trauma and working through that and how it shaped you as an individual. That's why I like to start the show of where a person comes from, because it all starts at ground zero and we all have a childhood, and that makes us human. And sometimes people read the felony on our record and they don't realize that we were humans too and lived a childhood in some sense.
Good points.
Hit you with some knowledge there.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I kind of knew some of that, but it's good that you specifically that are really taking your past troubles and using that to propel you to do good and help others, because I think you and me, we could help the younger generation, give them a little direction, because like a lot of them are drowning in misinformation and just poor guidance, because there isn't enough time. It seems like everybody's running out of time to really, it's not like the old days where you have a horse and carriage and your kids are at home running around on the farm and you have the time to really educate them and teach them right for wrong and what's important in life. A lot of them are learning it from influencers online, how to live life and what's important. And if you can take the troubles that you faced and spin it in a way that really gives guidance to help propel the younger generation to a place where they're happy and healthy and wealthy, and there you go. That'll work. I mean, I have something I'm working on similar, but I'm going off on another tangent.
No, it's great. It's using, like, there's so many podcasts out there about like talking the highlights of the weekend or comedy or this and that, and that's great, and there's a place for that. But there's not a lot where you can talk about your trauma and what you went through in your life in a negative prison crime and figure out the motivation and how you can inspire others with that. And I think that's where it separates. You're not glorifying the past and you're not glorifying crime. You're just explaining what happened.
Yeah. There isn't any glory in crime. I mean, dude, it's a dangerous lifestyle. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get robbed. I've had friends where they've come in. I had one of my customers, they grabbed him. He was getting ready to open his door, grabbed him, put a bag over his head, brought him into his freaking apartment, hit him with a bat, asked where all the money and product was, and robbed him. Took his shit. And he was beat up bad.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff can happen if you're really not street smart, if you don't have eyes in the back of your head, and you living with eyes in the back of your head is not the way to live. I mean, keep in mind though, we got to give opportunities to these younger kids so they don't have to sell drugs. Because imagine growing up and both your parents are alcoholics and your parents don't have jobs. I'm not saying this is all totally me, but and you're just sitting in a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 siblings, sharing bedrooms. You have no money and your mom's feeding you ramen noodles. And you're like, fuck. How come Johnny has a new tennis racket? Why can't we afford that? Your mom's like, shut up. Like, what do? You're a little kid, and she literally talks to you like that. These are, there's so many kids that go through things. I've had girlfriends. I had this one girlfriend. She worked for some type of program where she went to troubled children's homes and tried to give them guidance and clarity. And she had kids that had literally been locked in cages, like locked in for hours at a time, 12 hours, just stay in a cage. Oh man, wow, that's people that have had it much tougher than I have, and there needs to be some type of programs or opportunities for them, because think about it, if they can go sell drugs, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they if there's no other options? It's not like they're trying to hurt anybody, they're just trying to feed themselves.
Absolutely. What's a day in the life for you like now?
Oh man, it's I'm an entrepreneur. I have various little small things. Nothing really big going on right now because I'm making some transitions. Writing the book was a full-time job. Actually, working on myself and writing the book was the hardest job of my life because I had to sit and look at myself. And I spent a lot of time alone. Literally, I would spend close to, sometimes I remember there was a time I spent like 3 hours working on 3 sentences in my book. It was just hard to recollect, how to connect the dots, how to just be real with it, not scare the reader. And I had a lot of mentors that I had to go see and talk through my shit, dude, because I never had a time to do nothing. I've been working since I was 12, 13 out of fear. So this is the first point. The past few years was the first time where I didn't have to work out of fear, where I could chill. I had a small amount of savings, lived humbly, didn't really blow money, and just had freedom and free time to reflect and think about who I was as a person and how I can be a better person for people around me. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing, that and writing the book. And now the next thing is, sorry, this thing went out here. Let me see this. Oh, there we go. These headphones are a little off. They're tweaking me out over here. They're like, the wire's going off. Hey, so what am I doing now? I'm getting ready to set up something. I'm going to set up something that can scale. There was two criteria I have for building a business. How can I help people and add value to people's lives? And how can it scale while I'm sleeping? Because I don't want to run around 15 hours a day chasing a dollar. And I'm going to create some type of course program handbook to teach young hustlers how to stack all this, because my teachers let me down. The majority, 80% of my teachers throughout my childhood, even going up into college, really did not inspire me. And I didn't learn much. But the ones that were passionate about their job, I learned so much, and I took that and applied that to my life. But the other teachers that just spoke from theory, that hadn't really ever done anything, that were just there so they could have the summers off or the good benefits, they weren't passionate. They were reading from a curriculum or syllabus, very robotic. And guess what? I scored very poorly on those exams. Why? Not because I wasn't smart, but because I wasn't interested in what they were saying. So I started spacing out and thinking about other things that I could do with my life. So I wasn't paying attention in class. And I think this is a problem with a lot of the kids. I think that the education system lacks quality teachers. So I'm going to create a program that really teaches people how to level up and get what they want and take care of the important shit, which is, mind, body, spirit, right? Making money, feeding your family, paying the mortgage, getting along with your neighbors, surviving the highs and lows that life delivers to all of us. I'm going to give you real knowledge, shit that I learned on the street that can be applied to the real world, whether you're in a corporate boardroom making billion-dollar deals or whether you're, at the bottom of your rope, trying to figure out where you're going to get water. Because I've been there. Remember I said drinking out of my neighbor's garden hose because I was thirsty, hiding behind a bush? Like, I've been there. And I've also sat in a corporate room with the heavy hitters that make decisions, that are getting ready to jump on their private jet and go make more decisions and change many people's lives. So I'm going to create something that can really teach the principles in a hopefully an exciting, cool, and blunt format. So wish me luck.
Well, good luck with that. And hopefully it's not like what some of these other creators are putting out there. Like, those classes that you see, those are rough.
There's so many people teaching, and that's on theory, not experience.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people, and I understand why they're doing it. Maybe they have a good following, or maybe they're attractive, or maybe they're a people person. Maybe they're a good salesperson. But, have they really actually done something? Some have, some haven't. It depends who, I haven't actually watched many. It's on my to-do list, actually. My to-do list is to start signing up for some of these online programs and just testing them out, seeing what the competition's like, what they're doing. So that's actually what I'm going to be doing this winter. And then I'm going to create something that you can sign up for, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to take your money unless I'm giving you value.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to do. That's the next big venture. And I got a couple brand things I'm working on, but I don't want to spread myself thin, because that's when I lose quality. So that's where I'm really going to need you to wish me luck and stay focused.
Yeah, I'm like that too, but I've really learned to focus on one thing. That's why I've cut everything else out that is not what I'm passionate about. And I just went all in on the podcast and the media company I'm building and things like that. Because when you're not focused, then that's when mistakes happen. You get spread too thin.
Yeah. Yep. I've been there so many times in my life. And even still, bro, that's a never-ending feat for you, right? For the rest of your life, you're going to be constantly cutting things out to be more focused, because you cannot grow unless you cut things out. You can only handle so much stuff in your life. That's why moving a lot. I like moving a lot. Like when I switch out rental units or wherever I'm at, I'm constantly leaving things behind and giving things away. And like the next place I go to, there'll be less and less, because I don't want stuff on my walls. Eventually, I'm going to build, my end game is I'm going to build retreats where people can go heal. Like prison retreats, but very high end, because I want people to be able to go away and lock themselves in and have the highest quality food, the highest quality fitness, and the highest quality staff, which equals the highest quality vibe.
That's awesome.
I'm going to create environments where you can go in and check in and reset and heal. And I have a 40-acre parcel in upstate New York. I'm probably going to do a little prototype up there. I can put in a 1/4-mile road. I got some spring-fed swimming ponds. But that's the end game. And, where did I go with this? I don't know where I went with that. Bro.
Wish you luck on the timing.
Oh, fuck, dude. I need
and not spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah, spreading myself thin, dude. Like, we all do this. But I'm going to help people with that, with these retreats I'm building. Because, okay, the key is, back to what you said, is focusing and get rid of stuff. You want to keep getting rid of things. And you'll be doing that for the rest of your life. Because when you get rid of things, new things can come in. The law, that's the only way it works. It's the law of physics, right? You can only handle so much in your little circle, or what do you have going on?
And it's not bad to get rid of things. It's not a negative connotation with that. Sometimes you get rid of something, it's a blessing to go on to the next thing. You're growing. Sometimes you outgrow people and situations.
Oh, yeah. Man, I've had to... there's certain people that I really love, good people in my life, that I just don't hang out with anymore, because I didn't feel good. They were good for me at that point in my life, but there's only two ways you can feel after you hang out with somebody. And this is very important to remember. Either charged or drained. So next time you go to an event, whether it's to meet your neighbors on Friday night or your buddy on Wednesday, when you leave that engagement or function or whatever it is, take a moment and think about how you feel. Do you feel charged or drained? And there may be certain people or certain circles in your life right now where you feel drained. And that's not a way to feel forever. You don't want to feel like that. So a lot of people keep going back, though, because they don't want to be alone. Now, you got to man up and put your balls on the line and be like, it's okay to be alone, because when you're alone, something new will come eventually, but you need to be alone, because remember what I said, that's where you grow the most. It's kind of like, that when they say when one door closes, another one opens, but standing in the hallway is the bitch.
Yeah. And,
don't be afraid to stand alone in the hallway and figure out if another door is going to open, or when, or what type of door it's going to be. And that's me, is I never really had fear of closing things out that never served me, but there's certain people you might have to close up, but don't do it in a positive way. You got to send them love. You got to be good, be there for them too if they need you, but maybe you just don't spend as much energy. I can't tell you how many girlfriends I've dated that hang out with this. They're always exhausted. They're like, well, I'm like, well, but we're going out Friday drinking. I'm like, why? What are you going to if it's fun and you feel good, and you feel great after, do it. Keep going.
Yeah. I love a night in. I see people that do the same thing over and over, go the same bar in the same town every weekend. And that's great if it's fun for them, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I used to, I like to go out for food, but I'm not a drinker. I don't really like alcohol. Occasionally, if I'm having like a steak, I'll have some wine or something, but nah.
Do you feel charged or drained now?
Dude, you charged me. Actually, I'm being straight 100 with you. I didn't know what to expect coming in here. So I was kind of like, I really don't like doing the crime podcast because I'm not a criminal anymore. And I'm like, I don't know. But you're very intelligent. You ask good questions, and it's a good vibe in here. So I thank you for that, because I was kind of hesitant, and I didn't know what I was walking into.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And one last question for you. If you could go back to your 19-year-old self or teenage self and have a conversation with that individual, what advice would you give to them, knowing everything you know now?
Oh, man. It'd be very simple, and it's the most important thing. Sounds so simple, but do not care about what other people think of you. They're entitled to their opinion. Their opinion is from their perspective. It is none of your business what other people think about you. You have your own business to focus on. If everybody likes you in the room, you're doing something wrong. You're a people pleaser. And you know what people pleasers are? They become drained. It's another thing. I can't tell you how many girlfriends I have that are people pleasers, and they're exhausted when they come home. Like, you don't need to be nice to everybody. Be courteous, be respectful, but you don't need to put a show on for anybody. Back to what I said, if you have one friend right now and you are 19 years old, you are winning. If you don't, guess what? You will. You will, as long as you stay true to your heart and focus on what you really love. And fear of judgment will kill you. That's what killed me. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of if I was a kid and only got one like on my social media post. Are you kidding me? That would crush me. But you just got to say, fuck it. I don't care. This is where I'm not where you're from. I'm not where you're from. I'm from a different place that you cannot relate to that was hard. So back to your question is one piece of advice is listen to what other people think of you. You know, some people might give you good advice, but do not care too much. Don't let it ruin your day. Don't let it ruin your life. There were people that called me a loser. There were people that called me chicken legs. I got called so much stuff. There are people that flick my ear. I had so many bullies pick on me. Like, man. And it can be really tough for kids. Like I said, my childhood was way harder than prison. So I hope I can help the younger kids, because it's got to be tougher out there than even when I face stuff. So, but still, my one piece of advice is, and this goes for children and adults, don't care what other people think about you. Absolutely. Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Absolute pleasure talking to you today. Really good conversation. I'm excited to read the book. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we'll put the book description in the bio and where they can purchase it from. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd love, if anybody does read the book and they really like it, feel free to DM me. I always love hearing from people that read the book that it helped them in some particular aspect of their life and helped them level up. And man, Ian, thanks for having me, dude. Of course, man. Absolutely. It was a pleasure. And that's it. Let's sign off. Oh, what do you want to know? You want to know the name of the book? The book's called Pressure, a memoir by Eric Canori. It's available on Amazon. And somebody reached out to me and helped me with my social media. Hey, you're looking at him right here. All right, dog.